Hey, welcome to Dollar Views. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Stephen Maltmanex.
We're just a couple of Long Beach State film grads with a lifelong passion for cinema trying to put our money where our mouths are.
And we decided to make our BAs mean something by offering our spoiler-free take on the latest film releases.
Plus, any other media we've ingested over the past week.
Whether that's the latest buzzworthy show,
An album that's been on constant rotation,
that indie darling no one can shut up about,
a cute romantic comedy,
or the latest Michael Bay masterpiece.
we go over it all. $1 at a time. It's real funny. Our dollar reviews, our catchphrases, I'd buy that for $1 for things we recommend. That's a Robocop reference. I love Paul Verhoeven, that's why I picked the name in the first place. Doesn't matter what it is, all of his American films, I've seen them. Robocop, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Showgirls, Starship Troopers, and yes, even Hollow Man. They're all pretty good. Maybe not the last one. They're all iconic American films of the mid to late 80s, or maybe even 90s in terms of Starship Troopers and Showgirls. And yet we've never had one of his movies on the show. It was finally time to change that. He has one out this year. It is, it was selected for Festival du Cannes, other film festivals. It's probably going to be nominated at the Oscars. But the real reason it was a selection was there was a little conversation that happened on Facebook between two of my film instructors from Long Beach State, one of which we actually had a class together, Wysocki. So he's talking to Hoffman. She posted this picture where it's like a still from Showgirls and just saying, like, New Year's resolution, I found out that Showgirls is the perfect movie to have on in the background at any time. And like a little conversation that begins. She asked me if I've seen Elle. I say no. She's like, oh, really? Like, it's really interesting. And then I talked to you. You said I'm seeing it. I'm like, okay, well, I have a screener. Yeah, I'll see it too. So it took a long time, but now I've finally started seeing his foreign films, or more accurately, his native films, even though this is his first French production.
Yeah.
And because of that, next week's selection for Delta Cinema is Tricked, his film before this from the Netherlands. So there's going to be back-to-back Verhoeven flicks for me this week. Maybe I'll just watch his whole filmography in the weeks to come.
I mean, it did actually just dawn on me right when you said it. Yeah, this is the first time we're talking about a film of his, at least in an official review, even though I did bring up The Fourth Man.
And Showgirls. I think we've probably talked Showgirls before.
That too. That was a long time ago. And that movie's awesome. Both movies are awesome.
I mean, also, Starship Troopers getting remade. We talked about that when that happened. Showgirls getting a 4K restoration in France.
But this
that was
is the first
cents.
official movie that we're both
First
reviewing.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
which is funny.
It's funny because it's also a very different one. Like the only thing I guess I wanted to compare this to Basic Instinct, I think, while I was watching it.
Almost. Yeah.
And it's not because, like, I have not seen Basic Instinct.
Have you not?
Only
the leg
parts of
scene.
it, like,
you've seen the leg cross. Everyone's seen the leg cross.
I've seen the image.
Yeah.
I don't
You should
think
check it out. It's good.
I do want to. No, I want to see it. I have not seen the entire movie, but like I know that image. I've seen the sequel. And I mean, yeah, I know the sequel, which was boring, but I remember seeing that trailer for that sequel over and over and over again, and that was hilarious.
Have you seen any of those early 90s, late 80s, like femme fatale films? There's Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction, Single
Nope.
White Female.
Nope.
They're all like the same exact movie. They're so weird. It's like, successful businessman, check. Gets into some shit with a crazy woman, check. She tries to ruin his life, yep. It's like a whole like feminazi like backlash movement. Yeah, most of these films, they're directed by Adrian Lin, or he's involved in some way. Like, seriously, like Unfaithful, Fatal Attraction. He did a couple others too. Like his whole thing, Indecent Proposal. He did the Lolita, 9.5
And this
weeks.
was mostly
Flashdance,
late 80s, early 90s. Like that's how long this was kind of a thing.
Yeah, it was like the whole like third wave feminism is beginning. Let's make these movies where we make sure that all heterosexual men know that independent women are a scary thing. And this film has that same thing going for it. This is adapted from a novel. Wasn't familiar with. It's called O. And it's going to be really hard to even talk about this movie on this show since we do no spoilers, because I actually wrote notes for this thing and I have really, really good ones. Maybe we'll do a few dollars more. But this, it's weird. Like this, at the same time as being like a, like almost like a neo-noir thriller, it's also very modern in terms of what the protagonist does for a living. She runs a video game publisher, or not publisher, but studio. She's using her cell phone throughout the film, like phone calls and hacked emails and things that are very much a real world thing are at the forefront here.
It feels far more grounded and less absurd than some of Verhoeven's other stuff, which I did bring up Basic Instinct, but like Fourth Man, that's one of his other slow burn thrillers, that I did see, and that one is I would say just a bit more absurd and kind of cheeky, and not grounded as this, even though that movie is still fascinating, and it definitely gets weird though. Like this one, you can bring it back to reality though. Like even when there's weird encounters,
it's 100% reality.
Yeah. Like I mean, at first it felt like there's just things from random strangers that just kind of give her shit in public places, and you don't have the context as to why yet. But when things like that are happening, it almost feels like it's something that's just building up to kind of the absurdity of something like just weird things that happen in The Fourth Man. And so like it feels like it's going in a very, very strange, surreal place, and then it whips you back in reality and just goes, no. Like it's such a hard movie though that for me to describe, because I'm still really just processing exactly of what it is, which I mean, at the surface, like the best I can say that it's a story about endurance. And I mean, like we are going to be light on spoilers, but the main synopsis of this movie is that it starts with a rape. Our protagonist is raped, and right on the spot, it is ugly, and then she tries to move on.
Step back. Actually, it opens with a cat whose name is Marty. The opening image is a feline.
Fuck that cat.
So, that cat is awesome. He is gorgeous. You get like 3 really great composed shots of this cat. Loved the cat. Loved his angle. You get like that great dialogue.
I figured you would say something, but man, like you just, I don't know, something because of the context of what's happening.
Yeah, that piece of dialogue where she's like, couldn't you scratch him?
Do anything?
Yeah, couldn't you do something about it? Just, no, I mean, whatever then.
The way that cat is just staring and doing nothing, even though like I realize it's innocent, like still, it just looks so fucking evil and menacing. That I'm just kind of like,
no, it's just a cat.
I see that and I'm just like, God, fuck. Just that fucking cat, man. Ugh.
I love that the cat's meowing is used as like a segue into a flashback. That was awesome. You get the point of view from the cat. Just everything about the cat. I'm a sucker for cats in movies. I really wish, I know she never will, but Caitlin over at Movie Reviews, because she doesn't watch R-rated fare, and this is totally not up her alley, but she would probably love it for the same reason. Just cats. Also Mean Streets cats. Just gotta love cats. But yeah, this is so grounded in reality that you see something that almost never happens in a film here, and it's not even really pivotal, but Michelle charges her iPhone because it's dying. That is as rare as people like going to the bathroom in a movie or like taking a shower. Like it unless it's like setting up like a sex scene in terms of the bathing, you just don't see it frequently. But you see a bath here as well. And there's like these little flourishes, just the tiny things, especially when it comes to the video game studio that she runs, between like, oh, they're actually using PlayStation 4s, or like there's posters of The Last of Us or the Order 1886, like games that maybe the latter of which by Ready Yet Dawn isn't good, but The Last of Us is one of the best video games of the last 10 years. Some would argue the best video game. And like it knows that, or at least the production design nerds, they knew that they put the right posters in play, even if the video game itself isn't that big a part of the story.
No, it's something that grounds it in our world.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it is funny because this is probably for me personally, it's funny just whenever I see a foreign film, particularly in France, and I see things of that culture that I recognize. But seeing a Quick, I mean, that really just took
Is that
me
a real
way
chain?
back. That's a real chain. Yeah.
It's like their own version of Burger King or
McDonald's. Yeah. Like they all kind of compete against each other. I think Burger King France actually owns them now, because they originated in Belgium, but now I don't know. I think they're bigger, or a bigger deal in France, but it's still a thing that's there though. It's practically their McDonald's.
One of the funnier things, I mentioned the reason I picked this, or the reason we picked this, or at least the reason we have an episode, is that little conversation I had the night before on Facebook. And one of the comments I made was, I can't wait until Verhoeven comes back to America. And I was doing research. this was supposed to be a Hollywood production, which blows my
Yeah.
mind. He sent the script to a lot of different actresses. They all said no because it is about a rape and no one wants to play a rape victim. And like I guess the only person that was even close to saying yes was
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, Jennifer
but
Jason Leigh.
then he relented because I guess he didn't want someone that's famous. Or
No,
I mean,
no,
which
he wanted someone famous. I think he just wanted someone more famous. Like
well, I
she's
don't
not
know. It's
exactly a name brand, like a household name anymore. Like he wanted Nicole Kidman, who's not even American to begin with, but someone like that, where you go, ooh,
I'm pretty sure we were reading the same thing, and he did end up saying that's probably better off that he made it in
yeah,
France, because if he made it in America, it would have gotten bigger and become something more like Basic Instinct, which even though I haven't seen, I can just imagine
no,
that
that
it
is
ups the ante to
so.
become more entertaining rather than just this, which really grounds it in a way that's I don't think Hollywood movies would try to do. Even independent Hollywood movies, like it
Basic
really
Instinct is so beyond reality. Like it's the full-fledged Verhoeven, like surrealistic, like
like
fetishized violence with the over-the-top eroticism. Like it's still that kind of movie.
like
It's just
this just
it's not sci-fi.
this just makes you feel off, and it's very like just more uncomfortable moments that are really pushing it, but not because of the world, but more because the characters themselves and just the things that they're doing that are just
Hmm.
so fucking questionable and unnerving to watch.
Reminded me a bit of a Cronenberg movie in terms of his latter works, like something like
Hmm.
History of Violence or Eastern Promises. Just that it's based in the real world. You can realize that, except there's these normal people, or at least that's what they seem like, doing things that are atypical, not only for a movie but just people in general. And you get a lot of that going on. And it's also it's weird because this is very clearly a French movie. I think all of the cast, all of the crew, almost everyone involved here, besides
Yeah.
the Dutch filmmaker, director here, is from France or is French, and that's just really interesting that he wanted to make a French film after failing at getting it made in Hollywood, and this is totally Oscar category shit going
Oh yeah,
on
no, I mean,
here,
if this does not get a nomination for Best Actress,
right?
I
If
mean,
Amore could do
this
it
is out
last year,
during Oscar season right now in the
yeah,
U.S. Like, I guess it's not that huge.
just like Amore.
It just came out here in Austin though. Like, it finally just made its rounds here
Hmm.
in January. I think it came out in November. But seriously, like, if this doesn't get some sort of recognition, at least in the acting category, because just
Isabel
Michelle's
Huppert.
character alone, like,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I don't have her name offhand, but
Isabel Huppert.
yeah, like
Huppert.
it's just the things I don't know, like the things that for what rape victims just have to go through. Like it's funny just because watching this, like it really struck me where at the beginning the very first thing that she does is just kind of pick up the mess that was made and just try to get on. And I mean, right then and there, that for me is just a huge thing that really keeps it in reality, because it's like, and then how she's just trying to get by, do her work, and then make sure that she's okay by checking up on the doctor without giving any details. And it's like, for the few people that I know that at least have come forward, I mean, it's insane to think, like, yeah, they try to keep quiet about it. It's so difficult to describe, but just the process of watching that was very unique and like just difficult to watch. And I don't know, I mean, I don't dare say that's a bad thing, but it's kind of amazing that that came across on film, and it got me to feel a certain way and react in a certain way that I really still don't understand how to describe.
Maybe it's because it's the most recent home invasion film I've seen, but I got flashes of Hush, which is on Netflix from this. Just, the idea of someone like in a ski mask inside a helpless woman's house
But that
without
is
her being
also one
aware.
for entertainment value, and you are kind of watching that, rooting for somebody. This is just kind of like it's Verhoeven. You're being forced to see something rather perverted and like, but there's
Visceral.
nothing pleasant about it in this case.
I
I,
don't know if there's anything ever pleasant about his surrealistic gore.
Usually
Outside
he does
of
something stylistic about it that's kind of unique and like
yeah,
very
and
deliberately meant to provoke you. This, it's just the content itself that is presented just in a way that feels naturalistic outside of just the characters themselves. Some of them just being so demented that. I mean, yeah. I mean, just there's certain lines of dialogue that to me make no sense because of just certain characters themselves that really just kind of make your head spin when you hear them, and I don't know. It's really tough to describe the emotions that were going on while watching this movie.
It's interesting because there's like a lot of wish fulfillment going on in this movie in terms of, Michelle's character making video games for a living
Hmm.
or, her son, wanting to have a baby or, like all these different things that are going on at the same time. And, the gore angle, which is what I am most familiar, just like not body horror, but the comedy of, bones breaking out of skin
Which
or
is mostly, I guess, is U.S. stuff because the Fourth
yeah.
Man was not really
Well, that
at all
that's not a big
based around
budget
that.
either. They couldn't probably even afford that kind of stuff. But that's what I think of most, or just the humor, the over the top, just satire of Verhoeven's films. And here, in terms of just the gore angle, it's basically only within the video games. You have these scenes at this studio when they're trying to, get all the bugs out of this game, and it's very clearly like an action platform. And they're like, "Oh, we're going after Activision. We're trying to make this game."
Hmm.
And without saying it exactly, like it seemed like it's kind of like a God of War ripoff or something like that. And that's kind of the extent of the. It's not even gore necessarily, but the violence. It's kind of taken out of reality and put into a vehicle where people escape from reality, which I thought was interesting. Like maybe that's commentary on what the director is trying to do now. I mean, I'm going to find out, or we're going to find out next week by watching his film that he made 4 years ago. But yeah, just this is just masterful filmmaking to make a thriller like this that doesn't even necessarily you're not fully aware it's a thriller until it really gets going. I'd say it's like 45 minutes to 50 minutes in
Just after
when
certain reveals that happen.
uh-huh when the scoring really takes over and you get this very eerie, like interesting what's going to happen next feeling. And like the production design just really helps that how kind of dark everything is. It's all blacks and browns and some grays. Like there isn't a lot of color here. Like you do get color at the very tail end, like they literally paint a wall and it's yellow, but for the most part, like it seems like it's natural lighting, like there's a lot of handheld camera movement, but it doesn't fetishize anything. It seems like reality. This is maybe not a story that you see frequently, but it seems like natural. And it's almost shocking to me. Like, you said you're processing your feelings, but it's shocking to me that this is the same guy, that this is Paul Verhoeven, that this is the man, or maybe not him in particular, but person responsible for this podcast or the website in general. And I'm more than fascinated and extremely interested in what his other works have in store for me.
I mean, I can
Um,
see shit. Well, first off, you got to see the Fourth Man. You just
yeah,
have to
you
like,
said
yeah,
that 4 times
because
now. Yeah.
I know, but I mean, it's interesting because yeah, it also still feels like the same guy in some ways. Just
Hmm.
like as far as like how so just the feel of it, like it kind of is like a weird balance of like just
It's like
grounding it in a realistic way, but also just the way he sets it up, like.
it's the humor, I think, more than anything
Oh
here.
yeah, like there's definitely some absurd moments, specifically like I don't know if this is considered a spoiler, but like just the things that are happening around a baby, just certain
Yeah,
thoughts that are going
all the
around the table. I
baby.
mean, everyone in the theater was laughing at that moment as though at those reactions. There's no way you can't laugh at that in that way because it is absurd. There's still the feeling that it is that same guy. Like at least it's always interesting though, like to see someone switch gears and try something different. And I don't know how old the guy is now, but like
Probably
it's
70.
yeah, it's really awesome to see him just still working and still being able to just to nail it, to bring what he has to the table and exploring something that's different while just offering his cinematic perspective on it.
I it's like Out of all the times we reviewed something, I think this is the time most that I wish I could just go, oh yeah, and this happens and this happens, and let's talk about
We
this.
do
So
have
the
another
mu
show for
I know
that.
we have the other show for that. I think we're gonna have to force an episode because there's conversations here that we just can't have on this show because the nature of its makeup. This is our spoiler free reviews of
Hmm.
recent films, and we've talked a little bit about the plot because it's kind of necessary. It starts with a rape right away, and that's what the whole thing isn't necessarily about. But yeah, like it, if you did not know this is a rape story and you watched it, you'd probably leave the theater right away. Like it is that kind of thing, like literally right away. Within the first 3 minutes, you would walk out and
Yeah.
get a refund. So I think that's just us doing justice to the film and kind of articulating that to the audience, not just the ones that are listening, but if they're looking to watch it too. But this has so many taboos going for it, and that is true for most of his films. It's just I think because this is so real, it pushes that taboo nature to an nth level that a lot of people, you said your audience was laughing, but I think a lot of
It's
people
out of
would,
discomfort though. Like
yeah.
every, it's not like a, oh my God, that's hilarious thing. It's just kind of like something absurd that's happening where
Hmm.
it's so
You have
crazy
to
and you
laugh
just have no choice but to laugh at the ridiculousness of a certain situation. It's that kind of laughter.
because
Um,
I really wish, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I actually from sixth to eighth grade took French like every day of the week, and I went to a year-round school. So there was never a period for more than a month that I wasn't in class.
mhm.
And I wouldn't say I was fluent in those years, but I knew enough French that I probably could have watched this without subtitles and not been lost. And so there's like minor conversations, especially in the beginning of this film, where yeah, I didn't have to watch the subtitles, like obvious things. But I do wish that I still had that ability. And when it comes to films I watch in Spanish, it's the same deal. But I think it's funny you being maybe not fluent necessarily anymore, but someone with a French upbringing, that this is the first all French film we've ever had on any of our shows. We've done some
Not
German
true. We did
films.
Joy Noel. Oh wait,
Nope.
yeah,
Yeah.
technically, yeah.
We've done some German films. We've
Hmm.
done some stuff in Spanish. So like and then we have stuff like Joy Noel and the Red Violin, which are multi-language, and some parts in English. But this is the first French production we've done, which is a little just like fun fact
And
I think
it's
about of our show.
Yeah, and it's from Paul Verhoeven, which
Yeah, he's
it's
Dutch.
kind of a combination of two of our homes coming together because you're the one that t- built this podcast just based on his name
Well,
or
not
on
his
his
name,
film, not it
but
on his creation
RoboCop.
rather.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, it's
it's
just a
not
very
even necessarily his
strange
creation.
melding of the two.
It's
However you want to put
It
it.
was like
That's
the fun trivia item that I read is that he tried to only speak in French on the set
hmm
because I guess that's when you have all French crew, like that's something that you want to do so you're all on the right page. And it like I guess it got to a point where it wasn't exactly working, but he picked it up anyway.
yeah, like
I would,
it's one of those things where I really wonder just how Quentin Tarantino managed to do Inglourious Bastards because he's very precious about his dialogue, and yet like how do you communicate those things in a different language? And even I don't have the guy's name in front of me, but I know for Joie Noel it was also a challenge, and I
yeah.
think there's an audio commentary on the DVD where he tries to speak in English to the best of his ability, but he struggles, and I don't think he knows German, so he had to use a translator there. But yeah, just really interesting how you can pull that off while protecting the words of your screenplay. And in this case, though, it's, I mean, just trying to imagine how you can direct something where you're basically not understanding the words, you're not catching
Hmm.
every single detail of the performance just because you don't know the language. So for all you know, there could have been a slip up somewhere. Just I don't know that's got to be really challenging.
It's probably one of the greater challenges you can
Yeah,
embark
but
on.
that's a lot of faith though that you have
It's
to put in
well,
your performers.
not necessarily. I mean, that's also something that, the AD and script supervisor do, and I'm sure everyone on the set could speak English or some of them knew Dutch, and in some way or other,
Then
they got it
also,
done,
when
and
you're
it's a
in
good
the editing
product.
bay, like, do they write up subtitles for you? Because if you don't know the language, then how are you supposed to follow the cuts? So,
Well,
like, or just the scene in
these are
general. So,
professional actors. They got the lines right, and I think it's more so, and
yeah,
it's the
well,
same thing when you're watching an international production. If you don't know the language, you're not necessarily watching the subtitles. I know I wasn't. You're looking at the performer,
Hmm.
you're listening to their tone, their delivery, their body
But making those
language.
calls, if you don't know, like, yeah, you
Yeah.
are looking for that. But that's still, just language. That's a very important ingredient to at least following something. So it's just interesting. Like, how do you follow that? Obviously, you look for other stuff. There's a lot more to performance than just language, but that's still a key ingredient there.
Well, he got it done, and it's a
Yeah,
really great
absolutely.
product, regardless or in spite of that. And if you guys love really like obtuse thrillers, stuff that you don't see frequently, it's not even in the sense of the word thriller, really, when you get all down to it, when you get to the end. But if you like smaller stories, especially with a very, very strong female lead, and just a segment of the world that you never see in reality or on film, I doubt you'll be disappointed by this. It's really a thrill ride. It is not fun. That's not the term I would use, but you're not going to be bored. It is a conversation starter. This is something that we're going to talk about again in a few minutes here, and you'll listen to on a few dollars more. But I got to buy this one for $1. I'm not sure it's going to be on my top 10. It's definitely making the honorable mentions, though. And like I said, I enamored isn't the word. I'm not sure I love this, but I liked it so much that, yeah, I have to see his foreign stuff. I need to give that stuff a chance. Hopefully, Tricked is just as interesting, and I don't know really what else to
Fourth
say.
man, but
Yeah, eventually, man. Well, I'll
yeah.
go backwards. I'll do Tricked, and then I'll do Black Book, and then I'll skip down the years. I'll do Blood and Flesh and Blood, and then I'll do the Fourth Man. I'll do like reverse chronological. Okay, I'll do Spetters. I'll do all of his random shit. But yeah, I'm buying this one. This is it's fascinating. I think that's
I
the best word I can use for it. It's such a unique film, and out of everything I've seen this year, it's the most 2016. It's
um
it's
I
so yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I agree with everything you say, but I don't know, just I can't confidently say I'd buy it for $1, but it's definitely an honorable mention, a very high honorable mention if there is such a thing. I mean, we can't. We're very loose on or we're very tight on spoilers right now, but I mean, yeah, I guess just the best I can say, like the best way I can describe it is it's just a really effective story of just endurance of just someone trying to move on while there's this thriller element at play, but then they also have their normal life to go through. And I mean, really, I didn't even get to mention this, but it's just as a protagonist, not only is this like I think just what makes this role very interesting is that this is not by definition like a good person. This is someone that you really
Yeah.
really care for and really sympathize, but she has her unlikable moments, and it's a very complex, just very flawed human being. Kind of like Anomalisa, which also has someone as a protagonist that's not exactly likable in their actions, but you do feel sorry for, and you get that here, and it's just seeing how they go by their day with all the stuff that they have to go through with their personal life, with their professional life, and then all this trauma
Hmm.
combined, and keeping that going. It's not just like a one note. Oh, feel sorry for this person because they were raped. Oh God, it's a tragedy. These things should not happen anymore. We
Yeah,
have
it's
to
not
make sure that there's
Witness.
better things going on in culture. It's more just someone really just trying to get by in this kind of world and society where I mean I don't know if it's weird to talk about rape culture when you just cannot imagine what that trauma feels like, but I don't know, seeing
This is just it's so real. Like you
I know
said, this
just
isn't a
seeing it how it happens,
protagonist
it's like
like that you
it's
root
not
for.
like it
Michelle
doesn't
has
feel like
her
you're
quirks.
watching
She's
torture porn or anything. It doesn't feel like you're watching a horrific scene that's supposed to stylistically feel horrific. It's just the camera's there, it happens, the emotions are there, the people are there, they're complicated. It's all just there, and it feels very naturalistic. It's I cannot describe it, but if you're game to see it, you really should. Because it is something, and I'm not saying
it's
that in like
something
yeah.
wholly original. Like you said, you're not rooting for her. She's a protagonist, but like only in name only. And you said Anomalisa. I'd argue also Trainwreck, except that still sticks to rom-com conventions, and you root for her by the end.
Well, the thing
This
is,
is that like horrible person that is just surviving, and you have to like because they're still going forward with the battle. They're still living just like us. That every day, doesn't matter what happens, you just have to keep thinking like, oh, it's gonna get better. It's gonna get better. It's gonna get better.
that's the thing.
Tomorrow's
It's
gonna be a better day.
and even though regardless of Anomalisa being stop motion, it's just I really love movies like that that really are complicated like that and present things that are absolutely plausible and yet still like just force you to think about them, and this is definitely one of those. It's not pretentious shit at all. It isn't like, oh, it's already, what do you see in it? It's just okay, here's what this is, here's what's going on in their lives. And I just, there's no way to really ignore any of what's happening. I found it, it's fascinating the whole way through. I just I don't think I can't imagine anyone looking away. I'm sure there's people on Letterboxd that are going, yeah, this was boring dog shit, and I didn't get the hype or whatever.
No, I
But
don't see that. I really
but
can't see
yeah,
that until unless like yes, if
I'm
this didn't
sure
get any
there are.
Golden Globes, but if this gets Oscar nominations, then
For Best Actress, it has to.
there's undoubtedly going to be people saying stuff like that on the internet
Hmm.
post whatever kind of acclaim it gets. But right now, when it's still not even an underdog, because that would say that it's people are rooting for it, but it's just a movie right now. It's just a
Well,
thing that was recently released.
among
It's a
cinephiles though, it's considered Verhoeven's comeback. I'm even looking at it right now.
I can
Actually,
see
there
that.
there are some that do say like, yeah, overrated, or I didn't get it. Like for some people, this might be slow, but
I don't know what
I
there
truly
isn't
don't
to
see it
get
that
here,
way
though.
though.
I mean, like I said, I
Yeah, no,
haven't
no, I'm
seen
with you
his
there,
last
but
two films, so I can't even say it's a comeback. But comparing this to Hollow Man, yeah, it's definitely a comeback. Um, but I said it towards the beginning of the episode. I said on Facebook the other day. I really hope, especially since Hollywood skipped over this one, that his next film is not only in English, but that he comes back to the States, that he does make a Hollywood production, that someone gives him a lot of money to make something.
and I hope it's
Namely,
in
if he made
3D
like an R-rated superhero film again or
in
something like
3D.
that. Yeah, in 3D. Like
Fuck,
I
I mean,
would.
seriously, no, no. Of all dudes to play with 3D, come on, Verhoeven. Like,
I, mm,
I've watched Total Recall in 3D, like using the auto convert function on my TV. It was actually pretty cool. So, like, just yeah, I would love that.
I think he still has it. I would love to see him. This is Elle, this is her or she,
Hmm.
if you will.
Yeah.
I would love to see an ill or a him. I want to see that in English. I want to see the ultimate guy movie because this is.
Set in Long Beach, starring Brian Gillis.
I don't know if I'm that guy. I don't have the machismo, but yeah, I want to see what he has next. And hopefully this can get him there. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on Debt to Cinema, where one or both of us crosses a title off our list of shame.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
We're available on iTunes, YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, and constantly looking to expand to other platforms.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, and you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Debt to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BryonGillis, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.